All right. Welcome, Sid. Thanks for making the time.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're meeting for a special occasion, which is we both have a close relationship with Villi, which is why we're making this video. And I'm just going to start straight from the gate. Tell me, how did you meet Villi, and how did he end up investing in GitLab?
Yeah, I think it was during our B round, and we were looking at a whole bunch of different venture firms, and the Villi was one of the people we started talking with, and I quickly had something like, hey, this is a person I want to work with more. I think one of the defining moments was when I said, hey, let's do a strategy session. Let's get together and let's look at the business GitLab as it is now and what should happen. And I presented, for example, my pricing. He's like, well, your pricing is really bad. It's 20 different tiers. No one's going to buy that separately. You should consolidate in different tiers. And that made a ton of sense. And to this day, that's one of the strengths of GitLab, where you don't have to kind of, where you can expand using the product without having to buy additional tiers. So I was just really impressed. And we ended up, I think, getting term sheets from 2 or 3 investors. And I just selected the person I really wanted to work with and the person whose opinion I respected, which was Villi.
That's great. And so how did it turn out, right? You had this really nice moment beforehand. You decided upon this based on what you had. So did he live up to that expectation?
Yeah, one of the disadvantages of Villi is that he is cooler than me. Like, he always arrived for meetings at some skateboard or something like that, and he looked quite the part. And so I always felt a bit old around him. Other than that, it totally lived up to the expectations. For example, one time he said, "Look, Sid, you're going to have, you're considering having 3 ways of offering your product, but you're not ready for it. You're ready to do self-managed and SaaS, and you shouldn't do what is now GitLab dedicated yet. You should make sure the other 2 offerings are great first." And he was totally right. And those are the really insightful things. Talk a lot about strategy and bundling and pricing because it's important, but I've also gotten to know him as a friend. It's always kind of fun to hang out, get lunch together, and then talk about what's happening in the marketplace. He's extremely knowledgeable, and he knows what's happening around us and in the industry.
I was going to ask you next, how was it to work with him? Was it a close relationship? But it's clear if you say, well, yeah, I've come to know him as a friend. I think that's a pretty solid answer to that question.
Yes. One thing to be mindful of, he really loves Greek food. So if you really don't like Greek food, it would be good to put that in the term sheet. But other than that, he's a great person. And I love Greek food too, so all good.
He took me to a really good Italian restaurant once, so that was pretty good.
In San Francisco, Coccari is a favorite of his.
I haven't been there yet. So you mentioned very specific, nice examples about your pricing and about the market. Are there any other particular areas that he was helpful in, or different ways that he was helpful?
Once, many years ago, we missed our revenue forecast by more than 20%. And I was pretty distraught. The quarter was coming in really bad. And I asked my coach what I should do. And my coach said, look, they understand sometimes you miss. They just want you to know why it happened and what you're going to do about it. So normally our board meetings are pretty interactive, but this time I got in front of a whiteboard one of the few times, and I sketched out all the problems and everything we were going to do about it. And took about a half an hour, and then I was done. And I looked at Bruce and Villi, and they didn't say a word for what seemed to me a very long time. I thought, am I going to get fired, or what's going on here? And then Villi opened his mouth to speak as the first person. He said, Sid, don't do any crazy things. And he meant, don't do any deals where you're compromising on your terms in order to get the revenue in and make the quarter. It's the only thing they said. My biggest miss of my career, the only thing they said is like, hey, no, you've got this. Just don't compromise anything. We know you've got this. And they said it not by, we know you've got this, but they said it by, yeah, just don't do any crazy things. Just stick to your terms. You get a good product, and with the actions you'll take, it will resolve itself. So that support at a crucial moment was really important to me.
Has there, in the opposite direction, has there ever been a time where you disagreed with Villi, and how did that go?
Yes, I've only had one disagreement with him. It was about doing secondary stock. Secondary is when the typically the founder or other people in the company, they sell stock. He thought it should happen. I thought it should, and we both try to kind of find data, because that's what you do if you disagree about something. And we both found data that we really liked. We talked to people we really liked, and they both told us what we wanted to hear. No. I think also there's just different perspectives, and especially at that time, that year, it wasn't very common. And so we had a meeting, and I think Villi's opinion was we shouldn't do it. Like, well, I hear you. We both have the same data. We agreed that we got different data because it's just a murky subject. And is there another way for us to resolve this? No, there isn't. And then it wasn't their decision. I think it was my decision to do this or not do this. I didn't need their approval. So I said, okay, well, I brought this to you as board members. I want you to be informed, but I don't need your approval. And I'm still convinced this is a reasonable thing to do. So I'll go ahead. They said, okay. And to show you how he was not kind of wound up about that evening, he joined my birthday party, and we had a great time together. So we had a professional disagreement. We tried to work it out. We couldn't agree, and sometimes that's fine too. But there was no ego involved, and we could still work together both professionally and on a personal level afterwards. So that was great.
That's a great story. Sietse, imagine a future in which you start another company. Are you going to call Villi? Is he going to be one of the people that you call first?
Yeah, for sure. And I think we already reach out to him for advice. For example, if Open Core Ventures is starting companies, and I've always found his advice insightful and helpful on what to do and what not to do and what the potential problems are. He's also the person who I learned to read a resume from. You can give him a LinkedIn profile, and he will immediately point out what the ups and the pluses and minuses are of a profile. And I found that really impressive. So I try to learn from him. I'm not as good as he, but I greatly improved in quickly reading a resume.
That's great. Anything else that I didn't ask you? He's not very sensitive when I say something is a bad investment. He still pursues it. I'm not sure what to do about that. That's good. Thanks so much, Sid.
Thanks, Job.